support local improving their products and business models, reducing the need for businesses to leave Hawaii to become viable. We offer programming curtailed around value-added businesses, equipment that are unique to Hawaii and typically too expensive for small businesses. Provide consulting and know-how to help improve products, reduce cost of production, and increase shelf life, all critical to the success of local products and are now available in Central Oahu for statewide access through the community colleges. When we look at facilities that can help support scaling products, bringing new products to market, there's very few in Hawaii. Equipment like our hyperbaric chamber that will help stabilize shelf life for products. These are things that our entrepreneurs need so that their products can get into the store, so that their products can make that trip across the ocean. Keeping businesses local, supporting local agriculture, and strengthening local entrepreneurial pipelines are core to the mission of the Wahiawa Value-Added Product Development Center and the community colleges. I would love for you to learn more about what we are doing here by looking at our website and joining us for a tour so that we can continue strengthening Hawaii's local economy through agriculture.
All right. And with that, I want to introduce our two special guests. Oftentimes when we approach the work around value add here at the center, we're doing it through an educational lens. And I couldn't be happier to be joined by two individuals that are really committed to supporting value add, entrepreneurs, and other folks that are looking to learn in this space with that educational lens. So would like to introduce Jason Ball, calling in all the way from Norway. He's with Artikskmat. He specializes in product development and also works in the educational space. And Christiane Bolosan-Yee, she is instructor for our Āina to Mākeke program at Leeward Community College, working with local value-added entrepreneurs to be able to grow and scale and to achieve their goals in the CPG market. So thank you both for joining.
Aloha. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, same. Hello. Thanks for having me.
And so guys, this is going to be just really informal kind of talk story, but I did have some just questions. Maybe first off, we'd just love to hear just a kind of a brief overview of what you do in your respective spaces. Maybe you could share more about your professional background and what kind of led you down your path. And Christiane, maybe you want to start?
Okay. So, geez, what led me down this path? I think 14 years ago, I started off running a nonprofit, and it was all about economic development. And that's where I got the bug of being a business coach and a consultant. And from there, just started training and developing, and then found Leeward Community College and being an instructor that created this food entrepreneurship program for the center and for Leeward College. It's been really fun, but as a business coach for the food industry, I think I began really, like I said, 14 years ago when I did that nonprofit, and it was all about finding passionate entrepreneurs and also kind of bringing everybody into this whole holistic way of doing business. So I have also, as a serial entrepreneur, right, I wouldn't think like as a business coach, right, I have like multiple businesses as well. And so having different backgrounds with holistic well-being, nonprofit, community, working at the college in the educational system, with all of those backgrounds, I think I bring so much different ways of coaching, but I realized that the impact that I could have by helping, I think I like to call people heart-centered entrepreneurs, create that authentic, successful business by connecting to themselves and blending that whole modern, ancient wisdom, empowering others to just be themselves and connect by like creating like meaningful and sustainable ventures, and seeing all of my clients grow through the years, both personally and professionally, and knowing that I contributed to their journey, that like makes me happy every day. So being an instructor, being a trainer, being a business coach, being an entrepreneur myself, I think that's where I put it all together and I bring it to the table here, especially for Āina to Mākeke, our 12-week program. I think that's in a nutshell who I am and what I've been doing over the past 14, 15 years.
Very well. Thank you, Christiane. Jason.
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, everybody. My name's Jason. I am calling in from Norway, as Chris mentioned, but I'm actually from the States. And just a little bit about my background. I went to culinary school and I worked as a chef. I just always was drawn to food and very interested in food and cooking. And so naturally, it was kind of the path for me. And then over time, it is really great to hear Christiane talk about impact and some of the things that were interesting to her about working in this space. You know, over time working in restaurants, I sort of really enjoyed working with food, really enjoyed being creative, but I felt that my impact was like could be greater. And so at the same time, I became much more interested in science and food science specifically, and started to move into this space with the goal to be a product developer because I thought that I could increase my impact in so many different ways, whether it was working with particular products, whether it was working with producers, you know, again, just kind of on the same line as Christiane was saying, helping people realize their goals and using some of the skills that I think you learn as a chef and you learn working with food, but then kind of augmented with scientific understanding and a lot of the knowledge that I think is helpful when it comes to food processing. You know, as we saw in the video, there was mention of shelf life, stability, food safety. You know, there's all these things that are really important. And so kind of combining those things, yeah, was a big goal of mine. And so, yeah, I returned to school to study food science and then was working in Copenhagen at a research boat, and then moved into a position as a product developer at Oregon State University. And that's actually where Chris and I met. And I was there for 7 years, working on a product and process development team. And then I moved to Norway and am now doing similar work in northern Norway. So I'm actually in a town called Mosjøen, which is 11 hours north of Oslo. So we're just below the Arctic Circle. And a lot of the companies and producers we engage with are small to mid-size and often have small scale farms. And so it's been really interesting to not only like learn a new culture, but to work with producers in that context here.
Awesome. Thank you, Jason. Jason, follow up. So you mentioned, you know, coming from the culinary space, working in restaurants, where it seems like it's always so trend forward or trend aware.
Yeah.
With that in mind, and with the work you do in product development, I guess, you know, what are some of the more exciting advancements in the food science side that you've been involved with in recent years?
Yeah, yeah. It's so nice to see the video of your center. You have amazing equipment. We have like pretty minimal equipment here. We have a small lab where we have equipment needed for food safety analysis. So we have a water activity meter, we have a pH meter, we have a refractometer, and then we have small processing equipment, more or less relevant to our region. And so in terms of advancements, what I would say broadly is that I think, and you touched on this a bit, talking about trends and consumer sort of awareness. I think just in general, when people go out to eat, when people go shopping, when people sort of think about food, we're much more educated in general than we have been previously. So I think food literacy and scientific literacy has increased. And for me, I think that's actually probably one of the big advancements. And I'm going to put it in the chat here. There's an organization that we collaborate with in Norway called Nofima. It's a food science research institute, and they have really great resources that actually demonstrate new and innovative food processing technologies, but with explanations as to why these are beneficial. And I think this is in part a response, specifically in Norway, we've had some public skepticism about food processing. And so I think that the more information we can share as product developers, as food scientists, you know, the more we can not validate, but the more that we can talk about the positive aspects of these food processing systems and why it could be beneficial to extend the shelf life of a product, for example. I think that's good. I think it's good for us as people that are interested in making and selling food products, and I think it's good for consumers as well. So I would say that that's like really low tech, but I find that to be an advancement in general when I think about this space.
Yeah, I mean, it's really interesting. And maybe to kind of flip it to you, Christiane, from that holistic business development side, how has coaching for you with these things in mind kind of evolved over the past few years, especially what you're seeing more on like, digital and remote work?
Well, yeah, the landscape of coaching and business in general has definitely evolved, especially because of digital and work environments, I think, remote work environments. Like even in our class, it's a class where everything is all over on Zoom. And look at, we're meeting right now just all over on Zoom. We can be across the ocean in different countries, and that's normal to us now. And I think the global pandemic helped that kind of get along further and quicker. Because I think when I think about how I first started remote working, like Zoom in what, 2017 is when I think Zoom came out. That's when I started being able to coach globally, like in people in Australia, Japan, even like in the nation, New York, and all that. And so over the years, and after the pandemic, I think that digital work environment started becoming normal. Before it was like, what are we doing? Trying to figure it out. But look, now everyone knows how to just jump on Zoom. We just gotta unmute ourselves to talk. We can see each other wherever we are in the world. So that has definitely shifted, right, over the years. And but I think it's allowed for like a huge flexibility and accessibility for all kinds of information and connecting, right? It's look, we're all connecting and it's like at just our fingertips. You just got to open up your cell phone now and just click on a link and here we are. So it doesn't really matter where we are in the world, diverse locations. Even though we can't travel over the ocean, it's like we don't have to now. And so tools like these virtual workshops, online coaching platforms, it's been so important to make it easier for all of us to continuously be able to connect and create that sense of community, I think, amongst entrepreneurs. Like for we have what do you call it? We have our food scientists. Look, Jason is across the way. We have our food scientist that we work with for product development. And he's not even here in Hawaii, but our entrepreneurs can connect with him like really easily over a phone call. And this change, I think, really highlighted the importance of being users of technology. That's what I say in my class. I'm like, guys, we have this platform we're using. We're using Google Classroom, we're using Slack, we're using Zoom. And I'm not going to apologize if you are not able to jump on. You gotta be a user of technology. YouTube can tell you everything. Google can tell you everything. And I think that importance of that being digitally literate and being able to adapt, I think that's how we're all gonna thrive in this increasingly online business landscape. So remote working, digital totally made things so different for us now, but I think it's a good thing.
So it sounds like from that, Christiane, not only does it create open access points for information and upskilling, but also can really turbocharge this effort, right? You could get the information out faster, you could work with more people faster.
Way faster because of this remote and digital like landscape that we're living in now. Yeah, technology.
Well, so Jason, I mean, with that in mind, I'm curious to hear about what ways, from a food scientist perspective, you can benefit from some of these insights, some of these interactions that are coming from folks like Christiane on the business development side to continue to ramp up from a product development perspective.
Yeah, I mean, I just agree with everything Christiane just said, and I think that applies to working together. I mean, I think interdisciplinary collaboration is always a good thing, and I think especially when we're in this space, you often hear people make jokes that it's like crazy to start a food company because it's complex. It's complex from a food perspective and food safety and food quality and actually taking raw materials and turning them into something that is delicious that many people want to eat. But in addition to that, which is difficult enough, on top of it, you have to manage a business. And I'm not going to pretend to know anything about business because I don't. But what I would say is that, for somebody like Christiane and myself to work together on a product development project, for example, it would benefit the company that we're working with. Meaning, if I'm developing a food product from the food science perspective, it only benefits our client if I'm considering food costs and I'm considering how products are going to get to the facility that we're in, or I'm considering the volume and scale that we're going to work within. And I'm considering how we're going to market and promote this product to consumers, how we're going to package this product, and where we're going to get that packaging from. I mean, there's all these things. And so if I make something that's really, really delicious, but it's actually not feasible in terms of the cost of ingredients or the packaging required or the processing required, then it's pointless. And so like knowing that and sort of working with that in mind and being open to like understanding like maybe not criticisms, but like understanding the restrictions, you know, and working closely again with somebody like Christiane, it only benefits everyone, I think.
So Christiane, you've been referencing Āina and Mākeke, which, you know, for those that might not know, so Āina and Mākeke is a 12-week crash course in food entrepreneurship where value-added entrepreneurs can really work to get their product into more wholesale opportunities, learn kind of soup to nuts, everything from cost of goods to, you know, introduction to things like e-commerce, right, and product development. You've done 3 cohorts. You've completed 3 cohorts. You worked with 15 companies in each cohort. You currently just started the 4th cohort, so another 15 companies. So congratulations. From your perspective, Christiane, and I think, you know, the more that we expose Hawaii entrepreneurs to product development and themes about that, what have the results been from your perspective in connecting more local entrepreneurs to more centralized resources around product development? Like, what are you hearing? What's the feedback you're getting?
Dude, like, it's really great feedback. I think you guys at the center were really smart with who you brought on as part of that product development team for our entrepreneurs that we've been working with, because all I've seen is just great results in regards to our entrepreneurs feeling really connected to that, or finding the answers to a lot of those food sciencey questions, right? Like that, I would say, like, kind of jump off on what Jason said. Like, he's not gonna go into the whole business thing, but then he is the food scientist. I'm like more the business side, but I'm not gonna go into the food science thing. So I think it's a great connection that we have a product developer that our students can go to now. It's been just a great thing in regards to them being able to get those questions, like with their shelf life, their, like, how do you think packaging for this specific kind of product would work? I've seen people come out of those sessions and they're like, wow, that blew my mind. I have all these resources. Now I know what to do. Now I know what some next steps are going to be in order for me to further scale or even just refine my recipe. So those kinds of things that Porter has provided, or the product development and food science side that has been kind of coming on after the whole program that we've created, I think it's only been a good thing for all of our entrepreneurs to be able to grow and scale their businesses and even get faster to markets because of that kind of coaching that we're getting on the food science side. So I think it's been kind of like a great thing. If you look at all of our results, like you said, we have 3 cohorts. I think our first and our second cohort have really been tapping in. Oh, even at all 3 cohorts, I think I've seen them all super excited that now they can schedule their time with our product developer and they're like soaking it all in. So I think it's been just a really great thing for all of that food science meets business. It's just a good thing so that people can get into markets and know what the next steps as a food entrepreneur, what they should be doing next.
Awesome. I want to talk a little bit about innovation and trends. Jason, just from a top level view, what current trends are you seeing in food science that you believe will have some of the biggest impact in the food industry in the next 5 years?
Yeah. All right. How much time do we have? I'm going to start plopping some links into the chat, but I would say, and I'll expand on these sort of as we go through the list. I think, and I think there's overlap from year to year with food trends overall. So I'll say that. But I think that sustainability is huge. I'm sure it's a big trend in the US. It certainly is a big trend here in Nordic countries and also throughout Europe. And when I say that, I mean many different things. And I think that one big way is sustainability in terms of the ingredients that you're using in the products that you're developing, sustainability of your business model. And again, maybe that means where your packaging is coming from, how you're getting the product to consumers, different things like that. An example that we have that I think is quite interesting is a company in Copenhagen that is making pasta from wasted bread. So upcycling is something that I would say could be its own trend, but I think falls into this same category. Another thing that I think is really important is storytelling. And I would say storytelling for me means taking sharing your story and bringing something that might be lesser known in the public into the spotlight. This could be traditional and indigenous knowledge for ingredients and specifically, or for ingredient processing. Yeah, and I would say transparency is a really big trend. And I don't just mean transparency in the way that you're working, in the way that you're running your business and how you're operating, but also transparency, again, for example, with regards to the products that you're sourcing. I've just put into the chat again, a company called Neptune. They make fish jerky, but you can actually scan a bag that you buy, or you can enter a code from the bag that you buy and see exactly where the fish that you are eating came from. So that's like extreme traceability to give. Again, you're just giving more information to the consumer. So I think that is a big trend, but also just smart, good business. I also think that new and innovative packaging is another big trend. And here's a company that I think is super cool called Sway. They're actually using seaweed more or less as a plastic replacer. And so I think there's a lot of applications there. But, a lot of these things, and some of these things might be expensive, So for example, for a small scale startup, using Sway materials to package your food product could potentially not be feasible at this point in time. But I think eventually these things will scale, or there's another viable option. I use a lot of these different links and ideas more or less as inspiration. Because, we talked a bit earlier about education. I think educating consumers falls into this transparency trend. And then lastly, this is probably the one that I know the least about, but I would say that there's a lot of trends in tech that will be coming out. Maybe Christiane knows more about this, but I think there's a lot going on with AI in terms of production, but also, in terms of food processing as well. And that's like a short list that I've gone through quickly, but yeah.
We'll do the follow-up session soon. We'll get that on the calendar where we just talk just about this. That's incredible. Thank you, Jason. Excuse me, Christiane. So from your perspective, what are some of those key strategies that businesses in food and the industry should adopt to stay competitive and innovative in this changing market?
I kind of want to chime in on all of the things that Jason mentioned, right? To stay competitive, that packaging, the innovative packaging now, I think is like really something that people are being more aware of. Like, okay, how do we make our product look better? How does it come across to our client or to the customers? But really, is it coming from a good source and a good place? And I think people care about, more businesses are now caring about, like how Jason mentioned, being more transparent about their sourcing, about their production practices, about their eco-friendly practices. Are they sourcing locally? Are we supporting local? Are we, like, on the cultural aspect, are we thinking about how culturally are we connecting our consumers to our product in different ways? I really like how you talked about that continuous innovation, Jason. I think with that AI trend, definitely. I think in all of my classes, all the way through teaching, consulting, training, development, all the different spaces that I'm in. I think last year is when I started really saying, you know what, yes. I mean, it's been years that AI has been like, this is what we all need to jump on. But every day now I say every day you should be using AI in all the different ways and just getting more and more familiar of what artificial intelligence and machine learning can do for us, and especially with our businesses. So definitely that's a trend that I think if you want to stay competitive, like you see it all over social media now. You can write a book with AI. You can create your processes with AI. You can create, like for me, I create presentations in like seconds with AI now. And just to kind of be able to be in that forefront runner of how do you use what you have at your fingertips, you got to be all up in AI, I think. So that's something really important. I think if everybody's going to want to stay competitive, you got to figure out how to use AI and incorporate it into your business. That's definitely something. And I think that whole authentic storytelling, you can ask any of my students throughout the entire 12 weeks, I'm asking them to talk about themselves. And a lot of times business owners, they want to just talk about their product. They just want to talk about, here, buy this product or look at how great my product is. But really, yes, people care about the product. It has to be good. But then before you even get people to taste your product, they gotta actually like you, know about you, trust you, find you. And so that is through storytelling. It's that real connection that people want to feel now. It's not just what's on the shelves. It's about, oh, I know that product, or oh, I'm gonna take a look at the packaging and look at their labeling. I'm gonna look at where are they getting these things. A lot of times the people that are gonna find you is because they found you on social media now, or whatever your online presence is. Because we're in such a digital world, how do we find each other? By looking at social media, figuring out what are the marketing, like who's out in the space, and really caring about the stories that we tell. So I think brand loyalty happens because people know who you are and what you do, and then the product is a secondary thing that happens. It's like, oh wow, I really like this person, I really like what they're doing, and then wow, they just so happen to have these amazing great products. Or it could even find on the flip, right? You find a product at the market and you really enjoy it, you really like it, you want to buy it again, you're going to go look that person up or look that company up again. So then you create that brand loyalty. But I think it's so crowded, the market space, but knowing who you are and what you're doing and being able to tell people about it and using, again, I'm going to circle back to AI to help you do that. I think that's where you're going to stay competitive.
Awesome. And Christiane, I'm going to stay with you, kind of jumping off of this past question. I mean, you've worked with dozens of entrepreneurs. You help propel them in the market, not just food specific, but you've been working with a lot of food entrepreneurs lately. And I say this humorously as a food entrepreneur myself. We can be stubborn sometimes. We feel like, oh, our recipe is the best. Our formula, our product is the best. My label's 100% perfect. What have been some of the more effective coaching techniques for you that you found really beneficial in helping leaders in the food space, helping food entrepreneurs?
I think it's kind of a funny question because really, if you think about it, you know how you say, all about your food, your recipe is the best, and you think that way. I'm like, yeah, own that. Own that all in. Be all in on yourself. Be all in on your product. Who cares about if it's not the best recipe? If you think it's the best recipe, right on. Go all in on that. Because the only person that's gonna make this work or your product or anything work is gonna be you, the business owner who's gonna take ownership of really being yourself and loving your product and loving yourself. I think it's kind of funny. Like when I do my whole program, I've gotten like, wow, what is this? It's a kumbaya session. Yeah, it is, because I want you to know who you are. Because if you own that to the most and you like love yourself and love your products, other people are going to see that. And then in turn, they're going to love your product and love you as well. So I think that's in jest that I'm like, oh, love yourself and all that. But yeah, go all in on yourself, go all in on your products. And my coaching is always all about that. Like, what makes you happy? And how are you gonna make sure that people know that what is making you happy kind of shines through? And if it's your product, if it's your business, people are gonna feel that from you. I'm more about that touchy-feely side. So, but I've seen so much progress when people start not having to validate themselves really, but just kind of own who they are and Not worry about everybody else, but just worry about what they're doing and just do them. Just do
I
you.
would I would second that. I think there's nothing worse than a watered down version of something that you wanted to do but changed because of some sort of like perception that it might be better. I think this belief in yourself is like really strong and necessary because nobody like it's a realization I think when you're starting a food business that you have to just understand nobody cares about what you're doing as much as you. And so like, and I think that carries through the entire process, meaning you have to stay on your toes because if you start working with a co-packer, you can't just assume like, oh, well, they have my recipe and they're going to do a good job. You know, I think at every stage you have to be your like main champion.
Agree. Totally agree.
So, Jason, I had a question around collaboration in your space. How do you foster collaboration and innovation within your teams? And also on the student level, because over the years you've worked with different college and early college students, right?
Mhm. Uh, okay, first of all, I just love collaboration. I think probably the most important part of this, and I guess when I say that, what I mean is having so many different perspectives come to the table and put ideas out there, I think is incredibly important and beneficial for everyone. And so when it comes to fostering collaboration, I think it is critical to create an environment that makes everyone feel safe in that space. And that is, I mean, safe in so many different ways because for like real innovation and creativity to happen, there has to be failure, there has to be mistakes, there have to be dumb ideas that come out and are said, there have to be good ideas. You know, all of this is going to happen. And when I say dumb ideas, there is no such thing, but you know what I mean. You know, you have to be comfortable to say things that might not be fully thought through because those could lead to the idea that is great. Meaning it's just about sort of like making it so everybody kind of has this shared goal. And you don't ever, I never try to create a situation where somebody feels minimized or that their opinion or idea or taste, you know, if everybody's tasting something and somebody goes, oh, well, this is a bit salty, you know, I would never say, you're crazy. That's not true. You know, I think everything must be taken together. And so I think that that's one way that I do this. The second way that I do this is we've talked a lot about sort of interdisciplinary collaborations. Bringing people with different backgrounds and perspectives to the table as well is important. If I'm making a food product and I have a panel of tasters and they're 10 middle-aged men from you know, Midwest of the US, it's not going to give me maybe information that is super helpful. I think like diversifying those that are in your group give different perspectives, which lead to more creativity. And so I think that that's really important. Um, yeah,
All
those are
right, thank
probably
you.
like the top things.
Thank you. Um,
Can I chime in a little bit on that one? I do appreciate that process of or that perspective of diversity and inclusion, right? Because I think that's what another thing we got to talk about that's forefront in all of the way that we got to kind of work in the world now. And so how you said you can't just bring 10 of the same kind of people to the table and expect to have like really great feedback. You're gonna have more feedback when you have diverse thought processes, when you have people coming from different intersections, different cultural backgrounds to give you feedback on your product, give you feedback on your business, or just being around or being surrounded by different people will lead to different outcomes, right? Just giving you different perspective. So I like that you talked about that because it's true. Like you and having that safe space, you will always hear me say that in all of the places that I'm at. I always want you to feel safe. I want you to feel that it's okay to, like you said, right, Jason, make mistakes, fail fast, fail forward. That's what I say, right? And it's like, why not create that kind of space so that we have that kind of nurturing environment so we all can thrive and grow? I think that's the thing, right? We all got to thrive, grow, connect, and be together because you cannot, in this whole game of entrepreneurship, I know we always talk about solo entrepreneurship, but really that doesn't get you very far. It's the
Mm.
network and it's the connections and the resources that really help to propel you forward in your business and in life in general. So just wanted to chime in. Sorry, Chris, I know I
And I
interrupted.
would also say, just on top of that as well, and overall, I think two things that I think about often when I'm working collaboratively are, one, I approach everything with curiosity and not judgment. I think that's really important. And the second thing is that, oh no, I hope I didn't just lose it. Oh, I don't ever look at things as better or worse, just different, right? So anytime you're doing something, there's a goal and you want to achieve this goal, there are many different ways to do that. And I would never say that a food product or a way of doing something or a way of talking about something is better or worse. I think they're all just different. And I think that using this type of language and these types of approaches create that environment that we are talking about.
Well, I guess, I mean, to follow up to that, and I think this is great. From both your perspectives and your opinions, how can we continue to cultivate that community? How can we continue to step out of our silos, especially as we talk about propelling more in the value-added entrepreneur space here in Hawaii? What can be done? I'm kicking this out, to the audience. How can we all be stewards of that?
Yeah, at this point, I want to listen because this is what I'm curious about. I mean, I think one example is what we are doing now. I was so happy to get a call from Chris to ask to become and participate in something like this, but I'm so curious to hear what else we can do.
Christiane, do you have anything to add to that? Because
So I think from what I'm seeing with a lot of my students is the questioning, throwing out questions, and like Jason said, being curious. I think with everybody not everyone thinks we're working in silos, but when you look for those connections and the way that you find those connections is being like inquisitive, like you got to ask questions. You're looking for, I think in Hawaii right now, we're looking for chili peppers. We're looking for lilikoi. And once I saw people say that in one of the chat groups that I have, or then in my class, they like have like they're all working in a team of in Slack, and they're all talking about where can I get these ingredients, where can I get, and then you start seeing everyone start chiming in. So I think there has to be like a common ground, right, that people start off with, and that's where those questions come in, or when the reach out and asking for support happens, that's when everyone starts wanting to chime in nowadays. I think everybody wants to help. We all want to be helpful or be of adding value. So I think it's that curiosity of just starting out a conversation because of there's a need or a want, and then you start seeing everybody start chiming in. So that networking, I think, is kind of really important. But I think that's what I've been hearing more. So how do you create that community? One, create that safe space so that people can ask questions. And then once that question starts being answered, then you start seeing that network grow. And it'll continuously grow because then everyone starts feeling safer to say, oh, well, I'm looking for this or I'm in need of that. And then you start seeing that just community happen organically, I think.
yeah, and that's great. Absolutely. And maybe, I know Naomi dropped the question and maybe we could revisit it at the Q&A session at the end. But yeah, so we'll hold that thought. I did have a couple questions. So Jason, I mean, from your end, is there a particular myth around food science that you wish more people would understand, or something you could demystify?
Yeah, I would say that I think the myth is that it is really intimidating and that it's like a really big hurdle. And I think that I know that myself, for example, when I was starting to get into the industry, it really felt like a lot of information, and it really felt like it was out of reach. But I think that when you sort of start to go down a path, and if you're developing a food product, if you're working on a particular company, I would say that you can pick the things that are relevant, like highly relevant, and start there. And you start to chip away at like gaining some of this knowledge and ultimately find out that there are some key principles. And once you discover these and learn them, they're applicable to many different types of food products or food processing techniques. And so, yeah, I would say that's one big myth. I often feel like there's this invisible wall that is maybe again a bit intimidating and pushes people away or makes them a bit reluctant to approach food scientists or engage with the scientific community. Kind of in the same way that you would like I think of a restaurant operator that's scared of their food safety inspector. For me, it should never be like that. I think that you should have a good relationship with that person because it only benefits you and your company. And I feel the same way about the scientific community. If you're a product developer, you're working on developing a product for your company and starting up, you only benefit from engaging with people that have knowledge in this area that is different from you. Um, yeah, and I think the other thing is be open-minded to uh, different different processing technologies, different outcomes. So, for example, if we think about high pressure processing, maybe I could be skeptical because I really want to share something fresh, or I would use that word and say I want to share something fresh or minimally processed. My thought would be approach that with an open mind to see what the outcome of this processing technology is and how that can be beneficial. So the myth being like uh, not not all forms of processing or pasteurizing food are negative.
Mhm. Mhm. Great, thank you. Christiane, what's a piece of advice you often give to clients that you think everyone should hear?
Everyone should hear, I think, kind of chiming back on the just be yourself, right? Be you, own who you are, and just bring that to the table every day. I think it's funny, right, Chris? You and I have coached all of our entrepreneurs over the past year and a half. And I think at the end, we're always saying, you got to just show up and show out. I think if you show up for yourself, show up for your customers, your clients, show up for others, show up for your business, and bring your best foot forward. I think that's what it is all about, right? Just show up, be you, and show up and show out. But really, that's kind of like I'm saying that, but really being just who you are and genuinely approach your life, approach your business as who you are, your authentic self, and just really be committed. I think that's the other thing is if you're gonna start a business and continue and want that business to thrive and grow, I think you have to be committed to yourself and to that success and committed to all the goals that you set for yourself. And I think um setting goals is something important too. I think a lot of times we all just think as business owners, oh, I just want to make money, but really, how much money do you want to make? Oh, I want to make an impact. Well, what kind of impact do you want to make? Like knowing those things, I think that's like really important. Just again, be yourself, authentically who you are, and just show up, show out, and just kind of know where you're going. Always kind of have that North Star in mind. Like this is where I'm going and this is why I'm doing it. And I think the more you can connect to your why and that impact, that overall impact, I think now I've always been talking about social entrepreneurship. It's like, it's not just about you, it's about the collective. It's about what you're doing and how you're adding value. I love that adding value to the spaces that you're in.
Yeah, I appreciate just that perspective of just approaching things with authenticity and just that openness. Um, Jason, so much of the work we're doing here and the conversation around value add comes as an extension of our ag community. And I'm really curious in the work you're doing in Norway, how does your projects or your research tie into the local ag of that ecosystem? And if there are any particular upcoming projects you're particularly excited about that you'd be willing to share? I think there's always some real interesting synergies that we could learn from one another, especially across, halfway across the world as far as like what's happening and, how can we learn from one another?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I think we always forget like agriculture is the starting point for so many things. I mean, of course, especially in the space that we're talking about, but sometimes we're steps removed from where the source of the agriculture is. And so we can forget that. And so, like on that note, what I would say is two things. One is I'm a product developer and researcher for organization here, but I also have a small teaching appointment. And we've been working with a school in Denmark and a school in Finland to actually develop a curriculum that bridges agriculture and culinary arts. And when I say culinary arts, that's the umbrella that includes product development and food processing. And so the idea being that we're putting, in Norway, we say landbruk, like farmer students together with chef students in both cooking courses, product development courses, and also farming courses. And so we're trying to minimize that gap, not only with like knowledge from the student perspective, but also in the future when these students become farmers or become chefs, uh, there won't be a hurdle for them working together because this will have already happened in education. And so that is something I'm really excited about. I mean, and especially because a lot of our clients and people we work with here are small producers. And so also in Norway, Norway is an interesting place, and it's not like we have Amazon or like other delivery systems that get food to people or other products to people in certain ways. So we have all of these small producers that sell direct to consumers. And so processing food on site is a reality in many of these small farms throughout northern Norway. And so, yeah, we're working on that. And then in addition to that, we are working on some surveying. So this is a little bit different than food science, but a more kind of into surveying and marketing to actually understand how many producers we have in Northern Norway, where they're located, what they produce, and what their waste streams are. So the idea being that one, we can take all of this survey information and make it available to people that are interested in purchasing products. Like Christiane talked about, somebody that might be looking for chili peppers or somebody that might be looking for particular fruit. This information will be available by that means. But then also we understand what waste streams they have to help them either utilize them themselves or again, identify that that could be a viable product for another business to use. And so sort of like connecting those dots as well. Yeah, those are two things that we're working on now that I'm a bit excited about.
Incredible. Yeah, thank you, Jason. I'm going to be mindful of time because I want to save a few minutes for Q&A, but I think just in closing, a question for you both. What advice would you give young professionals aspiring to enter your respective fields, whether it's food science or food entrepreneurship?
One piece of advice I often give my clients is everybody just stay true to your values. Again, I'm always going to circle back to that. Like just stay true to who you are personally and professionally, because that pursuit of success that you're not chasing, but working towards every day, you can get caught up in all these different pressures and you can sometimes lose sight of what really matters to you. So for me, by staying in alignment with who you are, your core values, being authentic, building trust amongst the people that you connect with, and really making those connections meaningful so that you can foster that sense of purpose and fulfill all the hopes and dreams that you have. And so for me, this approach not only helps that achieve that sustainable success, but also brings you that sense of satisfaction and happiness and joy in the journey. So I think, yeah, just stay true to who you are and just always remember that. And in jest, something I've also learned is that life is not that serious, right? It's really about how you want to feel about life and what you're going to bring to the table.
Awesome. Thank you, Christiane. Jason?
How do I follow that? I mean, I agree with everything that you just said. And I think I would just say, just do it. I mean, if there is something that you're interested in pursuing and you want to get into food science, you want to get into product development, you want to continue developing your product, I think I would say just do it and be really stubborn and persistent. And I would also say that, and I think this just applies to anything, is you get out what you put in. And so I would say have minimal expectations about what others should do for you. And I think things can happen really collaboratively, but still, I think it will take a lot of effort. And so I would say kind of keep sight of that end goal and just stay on the path. And I think for me, I've talked to a lot of people either as chefs or working in the food industry or as food product developers. I think we're lucky, like we love our jobs, and I think it's a really good industry to be in. I think that everybody, it's rare that I find someone that works in the food industry that isn't a nice, kind person that gives to the community, that is really positive. So I think we're like in a good group, I guess. It's the way that I would close that out.
Thanks, Jason. I appreciate just how you both approach it from that, strong foundation, creating that strong foundation centered around values or humanity. Okay, I think that's really important. I think we can't lose sight of that. So thank you both for being on this call. And with that, we have a few minutes left. Just kind of wanted to turn it to the audience if there are any questions for Jason or Christiane. And feel free to raise a hand or just throw it out there.
I could start by saying that I've shared some resources with Chris and his team that I think are relevant when it comes to food processing, food product development, food safety. Yeah. And so I'm sure that he will share those. And I've put my email in the chat. And so sometimes questions don't come right now, but of course they will. So I'm available anytime. So don't hesitate to reach out.
We appreciate that, Jason. And Jason's in Norway, where right now there's it's sunlight 24/7. So, he might be he should be.
I basically don't sleep, so
yeah.
My response time is really, really quick.
Kimmy in the chat didn't have a question, but wanted to share a quick comment. Kimmy, go for it.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for allowing us to jump on. My name is Kimmy Mākeke. I work with the University of Hawaiʻi. I'm with the Community Design Center, the School of Architecture. Really interesting to hear how value added is moving, and we're so excited that the Value Added Product Development Center has opened. Wanted to kind of just real quickly introduce myself and my team. We have Hannah and Jerry is on the call as well. We've been tasked with the state to create kind of some of this physical infrastructure that's going to support local farmers and value-added producers going forward. So I wanted to put it out there to, the entrepreneurs or other supportive organizations and individuals. We're working on some conceptual designs for the next steps for you folks. So I know you're in your businesses now, but what are your plans in 3 years? What are your plans in 5 years? What are your plans in 8 years? Where do you plan to be? Do you need physical warehouse space, and what kind of equipment? So I was going to just drop my name and email in the chat. We're really excited that the state is, putting a lot of emphasis on supporting entrepreneurs and scaling up. So if anyone is interested in chatting with us, we're literally physically designing these spaces to support you folks as you grow your businesses. So thanks for allowing me to chime in real quick, and I'll continue to bother Chris and Naomi and keep these connections going. So congratulations, everyone, and thanks for allowing us to be here.
Thank you, Kimmy. Thank you for introducing yourself. And yeah, it's been great working with you up to this point. I think we frame our center as that kind of incubator. It's not meant to be the end game. We will support entrepreneurs to continue to grow and ultimately tap into the bigger infrastructure that Kimmy is working on designing and ultimately will be activated. So it's really exciting. I mean, I speak as an entrepreneur myself that 10 years ago, I moved to Oregon, and that's where I met Jason and worked with him because, I wanted to launch products and step into the value-added space, but just didn't have hubs like we have now or that the state's building. So just definitely, tip my hat to the University of Hawaii and the state of Hawaii to really taking the lead. And then I know we're on time, but I also wanted to call out, I did notice a couple folks from OER, Office of Economic Revitalizations, in the call today. They're doing incredible work, convening folks and just, being able to connect. They have an incredible resource connector. They have boots on the ground, folks like Glenn Kosuge, who is part of, or we're part of his kind of area. So they're doing incredible work working with entrepreneurs and connecting these orgs. So the work truly is collaborative and not recreative. I don't know if Glenn, Alyssa, I don't know if anyone wants to share a little bit about what you guys do.
Sure. Glenn, I can, or Glenn, you can share a little bit about what you do too. I can talk about OBC general, and
Go.
Glenn, you can maybe
Yep.
share a little what you do. So OBC, Oahu Business Connector, is the city's newest program to support small business development and growth. It features a website where you can search for all different types of resources by industry, by stage of business, by location. So we are super happy to have Wahiawa Value Added Product Development Center as one of our listed resources. But then we also have our outreach team. And as mentioned, Glenn is our longest standing member of our outreach team. So Glenn can go ahead and talk a little bit about what he does.
Yes. So what I do is basically outreach. Basically, my districts are in Wakiawa, North Shore, and Central Oahu. But we try to reach out to farmers or restaurants who has a dream of producing their own products that they might be able to tap into the Wahiawa Value Added Product Center and their facility and their knowledge, and hopefully it'll help more businesses. And I think in the long run, hopefully we could be more sustainable by like what Jason's mentioned, that there's the pasta company that use wasted bread. We're recycling our food products, which is a next step to be sustainable. And just like what Pony does with her vinegar too, the wasted food products that the fruits and vegetables that the farmers have, she uses to produce vinegar. So it's a nice round circle.
Thank you both. And thank you for dropping the link in there. And I think with that, I think we'll close this session of Value Added 101. Again, thank you all for being here. Huge thanks to Christiane and Jason for being our guest speakers. It was incredible. It was great to learn from both your perspectives. Jason, thank you for being on. I know it's like sunny in the background, but it is 9 p.m. Norway time, so it's getting late.
No, thanks for having me. Thanks, everybody.
And we look forward to having you out in Hawaii so you can meet everyone in person. All right. And with that, thank you. We're just dropping in. If you have any questions for us, I'm just dropping in our center email, and we'll follow up with the resources Jason shared. So we'll send out to the group as well. So thank you all. Have a great rest of your day. Aloha. Take care, everyone.
Aloha.